Ladies and gentlemen, we have to talk about the new Dragon Ball Daima episode 11. Now, a new Majin was introduced that could possibly rival Tamagami number 1, who, remember, is stronger than Deborah, the previous Demon King, and is stronger than Goma. So maybe he will beat him, but that's besides the point. I want to talk about at first what happened in the last episode of episode 10. There's something I want to address and get off my chest. Zeno and Majin Rymus. The last episode went over how Majin Rymus completely created all 18 universes as we know, obviously except in Super, Zeno erased 6 of them, you get the point, etc. But somebody comparable to the Omni King Zeno. Majin Rymus and the Omni King look similar, but there's one thing I want to talk about real quick before we get into the Daima episode, and that is who is the true ruler of the universe? It's still Zeno. And there's only one reason why I say this, because in episode 41 of Dragon Ball Super, Shin actually does not know who the Omni King is, and that's why the Grand Kai smacks Shin on the head because he does not know who Grand Zeno is, which is the Omni King, the true ruler of the multiverse. Now, Shin said Majin Rymus was the highest authority in the universe that he knew in episode 10 of Dragon Ball Daima because he didn't know who Zeno was yet, and that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to get that off my chest for real, but whatever. Majin Rymus represents creation, Zeno represents destruction in my opinion, but that is a interesting thing. Tell me your thoughts on that in the comments down below. But let's go ahead and get into the new Dragon Ball Daima episode, which is introducing the new Majin. Alright, so basically how this episode starts off is that we get introduced to the legendary Namekian, Neva. And Piccolo in his interactions is quite cool, but at first they actually thought he was senile, or at least Vegeta did, because, you know, he started low-key. Hey, reference to OG Dragon Ball, by the way. It was a reference to OG Dragon Ball is what he was doing. But, you know, you kind of see what's going on with that. But if you get it, you get it. You don't, you don't. But it's whatever. So Vegeta thinks he's senile. Obviously, he's not. Piccolo calls him out. Their interaction is interesting because obviously he said he looks like Katats, and that is Piccolo's father, or Demon King Piccolo from OG Dragon Ball before Piccolo was born, and that's why he looks like Katats in the first place. Anyway, but you get the point. Katats is Piccolo's father, and they have that cool interaction, and he's like, blah, blah, this, blah, blah, that. And then this comes one of the most controversial parts of the episode, where apparently Piccolo forgets Namekian. Now, I understand the point they were trying to do here by saying, oh, well, they need to take Neva along to order the Dragon Balls around. Now, in my personal opinion, I think Piccolo is just playing stupid to keep Neva around or to find out more about this legendary Namek. Yeah, I think he's keeping it around because he's, you know, full of tricks. You know, he doesn't trust him yet. I think there's a whole purpose to that. But obviously that's just headcanon. The point is that supposedly Piccolo forgot Namekian, which is interesting because obviously we've seen Piccolo speak Namekian very often. But his excuse is he's been on Earth for so long that he's forgotten Namekian, that he's forgotten the legendary Namekian language, which I guess I can kind of get behind. You know, they're doing the whole, oh, I've been in this country for so long, I lost my accent thing. You know, I've been in America so long, I lost my German accent or something, which I kind of understand, but it is what it is. So then they finally let Neva on the plane because they need somebody to speak Namekian when they wish for the Dragon Balls. And then we start getting some answers to why Neva created the Tamagamis. Bulma asked, why did you create the Tamagamis? And obviously the answer to that question was, well, when the bad people came into office, you know, became president, they decided to make the Tamagamis because they're not supposed to be wished for evil. They're not supposed to be A for evil. You get the point. And yeah, like, so I mean, that's pretty interesting. I mean, I can't believe he created somebody so strong, to be honest. That's a strong person right there, which kind of is an interesting point because I always thought Namekians were supposed to be as strong as their creations, but it doesn't look like Neva is just as strong as a Tamagami, but I guess that's just me. Whatever, right? Answers a lot of questions. Maybe a question about Zalma and the Super Dragon Balls, but whatever. So then he is surprised that Vegeta and Goku want to fight the Tamagami so much, and then Bulma's like, listen, they're battle-hungry crazy Saiyans, and that's just how it goes. And then we finally switch to where the new Majin gets introduced. So now we get into where they're making the new Majin. And while they're making the new Majin, Majin Kuu's like, well, it was too dangerous for me to keep fighting Tamagami number 1, you know? And he's like, I'm super smart. I had to run away and know when I lost, which actually isn't, you know, a lot of Dragon Ball characters have a hard time doing that. So I kind of give him props for it, right? But he's not the strongest character of all, but hear me out, okay? He's not like a Mr. Satan. He's not useless levels of not strong. I feel like he's going to be useful in the future Daima episodes as well. But now they used the last of the Majin Buu drops from the original Majin Buu, and they used it all up in this next make, which becomes the next Majin. This Majin is an absolute beast. But one of the most interesting things they said is that if this Majin goes berserk, this could absolutely cause a problem, which obviously I could not agree more. We do not need another Kid Buu on our case. Now that's what we want, but what they want is not another Kid Buu. Let's just be realistic here. That's all I gotta say. But Majin Kuu, bro's kind of adorable. I'm not gonna lie. He's like, well, doesn't this technically mean I get a big brother? And yeah, little bro Inarusu is like, yeah, little bro, of course it does. I guess that's what it means. And he's like, and then he got all excited for it, etc. You get the point. And then we finally get where Majin Duu shows up. And this is the closest looking. This is like, he looks like Kid Buu, a Cyberman, and Fat Buu all mixed together. Because he has Kid Buu and Super Boo's red eyes, but he's fat like the original Majin Buu. Now, it's super interesting, in my opinion at least. So this dude comes out of the womb, right? And the first thing he does is start shaking his booty. And start yelling and screaming just how like Buu did when he came out, except Buu wasn't throwing it back, he was just screaming, but he does come out screaming, as we can see when I'm showing this image right here. But him throwing it back was low-key crazy. That's just me though, but whatever. Then we finally get the first interaction between Majin Kuu and Majin Duu, and that's when Inarusu was like, can you go get him some chocolate? Because the first thing he wants when he came out, of course, chocolate. You know, I guess Majin Buu, Majin Kuu, Majin Duu, they just like chocolate. I guess it's just a thing between all of them. You know, everybody likes sweet. That's real. So now we get to a point where he goes to the convenience store, he comes back, he gets the chocolate. Then we get this funny scene where Majin Duu just eats all the chocolate and Majin Kuu gets none of it, but he doesn't really care too much. He's just glad he's got a brother. And then we get to the point where Inarusu finally orders Majin Duu to go fight Tamagami number 1, and this is where we get the Majin Duu fighting Tamagami number 1 and Vegeta fighting Tamagami number 2. Now, I'm going to talk about Vegeta's fight first, and then I'm going to talk about Majin Duu's fights. But without further ado, let's talk about Vegeta's fight. So Vegeta starts off the battle, he's stretching and things like that, and Pansy's like, oh, the Tamagamis are pretty strong, and clearly she has not learned her lesson, because obviously we know that Vegeta is second to Goku currently, which I don't know where Gohan lands in Daima, I'm just saying. This is only 10 months after the Buu Saga, but this is Gohan not training for 10 months. So Vegeta could have surpassed him in that time frame. It's kind of hard to believe, but whatever. So obviously Pansy underestimating Vegeta, and then Bulma's like, nah, just sit back and watch. And then we're getting introduced to what Tamagami number 2 looks like. And bro, I'm not gonna lie, I really like the design of Tamagami number 2 the best. He has some spear, some like like a little spear, like a trident type of stick in his hand, and that's probably my favorite design of a Tamagami. Like, I'd love to throw hands with that guy in Sparking Zero. Like, I cannot wait to use him in Sparking Zero. Now, obviously they start fighting, and they start boxing, and Vegeta's kind of giving the hands, and then of course he uses his infamous attack, a bunch of Ki Blasts, which literally never works. When is this guy going to learn that spamming a bunch of Ki Blasts does not ever beat the opponent? Like, literally in no history of Dragon Ball has that ever worked, but whatever. You get the point. I digress. So they start Vegeta really starts boxing up into his base form. He has not transformed yet. He's going to have to eventually. But then Tamagami number 2 knocks him down into the water, and then the Kraken shows up, which apparently are stronger than Goku and Vegeta, as stated by Goku himself. But then he somewhat gets out of it. He gets out of it, but that was Tamagami number 2's trap. Then Vegeta flies back up. He knocks him back down into the mouth of the Kraken, and that is how Vegeta's fights end. And obviously, he's going to get out of the Kraken by probably transforming into Super Saiyan. It might even need to take Super Saiyan 2, because it did need to take Super Saiyan 2 to beat Tamagami number 3 by Goku. So who knows? But hopefully that boy Vegeta can finally catch a W instead of taking L's. And obviously, I forgot to mention at the first part that Tamagami number 2 was low-key making fun of bro, which was kind of funny. I like that little dynamic. He was literally making fun of Vegeta for being a kid, but then he saw Neva, the one who created him, and actually started to take him seriously. So I thought that was a good little paragraph. But the Vegeta disrespect never stops. Now let's move on to Majin Duu. Before we move on to Majin Duu, how do you guys feel about Vegeta actually getting cut by Tamagami number 2's spear and blood being in Dragon Ball Daima? I think that's pretty cool. Finally, we get to see blood back in Dragon Ball. I think that's awesome. It's about time. But let's move on to Majin Duu's fight. So Majin Duu finally starts fighting Tamagami number 1. And obviously, the first thing we know is Majin Duu is a lot stronger than Majin Kuu, and we can tell that by the way that everything's going down. Tamagami number 1 is having a hard time adapting to his unorthodox style of fighting, like him shoving his butt in his face, him hopping around and stuff, him wavering around him and things like that, just keeps going around him and trying to hit him and doing all these weird things to try to get as much damage as possible. Majin Duu even blasts himself in the face because he probably didn't, listen, he was literally just born that day. So he does not know how to fight at all, which explains the unorthodox style of fighting, the goofy fighting that Majin Buus always do. He starts off with the spinning attack to hit Tamagami number 1, all the weird things that they do. But yeah, so obviously they're sitting there boxing, etc. But the last thing that we see of Majin Duu's fight is him giving back shots to Tamagami number 1, and he's actually doing way better and doing way more damage than Majin Kuu ever did against his fight, Tamagami number 1. Now, is he going to be the final villain? Maybe so. I still think that there's going to be a better villain or a stronger villain, maybe fused between Majin Kuu and Majin Duu, or a variation of Majin Duu, because they hinted at him going berserk. Well, that's pretty much it for the episode. Hopefully Vegeta captures a W. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this little review. I am tired now. It took a while to make, but I got it out hopefully tonight. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Tell me you guys think is stronger between Zeno, Grand Priest, Majin Rymus, Zalama, and Super Shenron. Let me know in the comment section down below. Without any further ado, Anpal Palski out.